had some version of our lived experience, all who are bringing best-in-class content to you. If you like what you see here, you'll love what you see at the Rooted Retreat. And so we're encouraging you to make sure you run and sign up. Tiff, drop that in the chat. Run and sign up for the rootedretreat.com. But I am so excited to bring to you our first speaker. So without further ado, I'm bringing to you my friend, Nicole Cardoza. I had the pleasure of meeting her at a conference in the beginning of March. We think we've been friends for our whole life. Ready to go?
That's right.
I was like, hey, girl. So Nicole is a light and a force. She is the founder and executive director for Yoga Foster, which brings yoga and yoga practices to our young people across the country. Right now, she's grounded, but typically in our mobile yoga classroom, which I love. And let me make sure I get this right. When she's not changing the trajectory of our health of our young people and their caregivers, because when the adults see what the babies are doing, we do it too. Mm-hmm. She is making sure women of color, Black and brown women, yoga studio owners, mm-hmm. and instructors have the financial and the space capacity building resources they need to build out their practices through an accelerator fund. And I want you to talk about all that. Okay. Let me not steal your thunder because you have a lot to say, but I just wanted to just cue you up. If y'all have any questions, we are both in Zoom and we are on Facebook Live. And remember, Facebook Live has a small delay. And so we'll be manning both of those chats. You can drop questions in either place and we will get to those right away. All right, Nicole, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. Really, it's an honor. I love what you're up to. And we are best friends. I know we just met at the beginning of March, but March feels like it's been 10 years at this point. So we've been friends for 10 years.
I take it. And listen, Nicole, ask Rochelle. She's here on the call. She will tell you when I slide up to you and say, we are friends. That's just how it goes. And as Tiffany just said, March has been a decade. You are absolutely correct. We've been friends for 10 years. The end. Yep. The end. All right. So talk to us about your work. Bring us in, get us centered in this space. I'm giving the floor to you.
Yeah. My work is all about reclaiming our inherent right to be well. I firmly believe that everybody in this country and on this planet deserves to be whole and healthy and thriving and happy in whatever way they choose. So my little corner of that work is making sure that we have access to mindfulness programs and other kinds of mindful movement that we can do with our own bodies, and we don't need anything else or anyone else to give us the permission. So I started that work with Yoga Foster, which is a nonprofit. We train school teachers how to bring yoga in their classrooms. We're really passionate about elevating the capacity of school teachers, probably the greatest leaders in our country, to be able to lead this work with their kids, and recently started a venture fund. So it's been a journey. And it's been a really busy couple of weeks, but I'm grateful to be in it.
First of all, I just love that you just said, and I recently started a venture fund. This is why I love us, okay? Because I know anybody else had that reaction when you were like, and when I'm not doing that, I just recently started a venture fund. I mean, like, did you just slide that excellence in? Like, come on now.
Well, it came out of some controversy I had with a yoga magazine that asked me to be on the cover of their magazine. And then instead of having me on the cover, they asked their community to vote whether I should be on the cover or a white woman should be on the cover. And it was one of those things that really just drove home, like, we need more people that are actively investing in our right to be well and investing in us being seen and heard and celebrated and paid. And so I thought, like, if not now, then when? And if not, me, then who? And decided to start one that day, essentially.
I love that. I mean, your story there, and for those of you who have never heard this story, I think if you don't mind just kind of giving a little color commentary on what happened, because, I immediately after you told the story, went digging, and I was like, what in the Sam hell? So just talk to us about what are some of the challenges, just even coming into that, because that was not your first shoot. That was not the first time you've been photographed. You've been in campaigns. So talk to me about like what that world is even like, because I'm always wondering about it, but don't really know like what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really grateful that lately I've been getting a lot more of support with my nonprofit work and a lot more attention. And that means, getting to do the photo shoots and having people do your hair and makeup. And oftentimes people not knowing how to do your hair and makeup, but that's another conversation. But, really being honored and celebrated. And so when this yoga magazine asked to do a feature on my nonprofit, I was really honored. And then they asked to put me on the cover of the magazine that my feature would be in. And of course I was thrilled, and they flew me out to do a day-long shoot, and I got to wear different outfits and the whole thing. And so I was super excited, and I wasn't thinking about how many people of color have been on the cover before and how have they been treated and what kind of pitfalls should I be in, because I was really focused on the celebration and the honor and the joy of being in this experience. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to, that, you really want to just be able to show up as your full self and not have to worry about all of the time how people are perceiving you. And then I shot that cover, and a couple of weeks later, without my consent, the magazine asked their community to vote, which they had never done before, on whether I should be on the cover or somebody else. And they put our two pictures side by side, and it's both two women smiling, looking at the camera in relatively casual poses. And the big difference is that one was a Black woman with a natural hair fro, and one was a white woman with blonde hair. And they emailed me later and told me it was because they were so excited about running my feature, they were just worried about my cover. And to hear that took me back to middle school, right? And feeling so insecure about how I show up, and blaming myself a lot for, why did I trust these people? Why did I just assume that my work and my character gave me the right to be celebrated in the first place? So it was a really damaging experience.
I mean, what I think is so crazy about that is, look how fast, and for those of y'all who are on the Zoom and on Facebook, just jump in the chat with a GIF if you're on Facebook, but with an emoji if you're on Zoom, about, did that just take you to middle school too, or what? Because I think having that experience, and everybody who's on, you can unmute yourself. We're having a conversation before we get into our meditation, but having that experience, it just strips you raw. And it doesn't matter. You go from this place of, and the words you use are so important, that place of gratitude, and you were and pride and joy, and you were oh, I'm a fancy. And you can be humble and also be humbled by being this is fancy. That's the largest yoga publication in that space worldwide.
Yeah.
That's being on, that's like being on old magazine a little bit. Although I feel if you were on old magazine, you wouldn't be on the cover, because she only puts herself. But if you're on the inside in the spread, it's the pinnacle. You see?
Yeah.
So it just, all of a sudden, it just strips you down raw in the same way. How did you even find the strength and the fortitude? Because you mobilized quickly. I mean, hours you mobilized.
Yeah.
So what was on your mind? How did you just bring it all center and go, not today?
I think, this has happened to me a lot of times, a lot in the smaller kind of microaggressions, like when you're at a dinner party and somebody says something that gives you pause, and you kind of have to choose whether or not you're going to respond or how you're going to show up, or maybe you don't feel like you have the choice to respond. These things happen in all of these small little ways where people are trying to tell me that I don't belong in that space, right? And this was probably the most public and blatant example of something that had happened, because this went out to everybody. It was a survey that they posted on social media. It was a survey that they sent in an email. I found out about it because somebody sent it to me. And so I just figured, this is not going to be the time where I am quiet. No way am I going to let somebody disrespect myself to this level. Also, think about how many other people have been in this space, particularly in the wellness industry, that are trying to grow businesses, that are trying to raise money, that are also being told by this that they don't belong either, right? Because it's not just me, right? My image, that's a picture of me and it hits me personally, but there's a lot of people that look like me trying to be on the cover of that magazine one day. And so I was absolutely not. I was this is a story that we need to hear, and we need to remind each other that we're not alone, and also not stand for it, period.
Absolutely. And I think what is so powerful about that is that, to be honest, I literally went and just did a deep dive into wellness and health when I was thinking about building out my business around the idea that you have to live well in order to lead well. I had no clue about any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are so many of us, I think, who are like, we kind of understand what you mean when you're talking about the wellness industry, but we don't really kind of know.
Yeah.
You just kind of just give us the 55,000 foot
Yep.
view so we can kind of all get up to speed on what we're dealing with here.
Yeah. I mean, the wellness industry is the fastest growing industries worldwide. And it's anything that has to do with like improving your health, your body, mind, or spirit. A reason why a lot of us don't feel like we know much about the wellness industry is because a lot of us weren't included in it, which is another big issue with what happened with this magazine, is because it's really been catering to an affluent white female audience. It includes anything from yoga to meditation to Reiki to essential oils to herbs to you name it, kind of anything that's going to make you feel good. And it's usually a very self-centered kind of approach to wellness. It's not really thinking about community care or supporting each other, which I think is really indicative in this time of the global pandemic. It's kind of focused on like individual stuff. Like, what can I do to make myself feel better, as opposed to what can I do to make the world feel better? So that's kind of like the broad space of wellness. And so my work is how can we shift that lens? Because there's a lot of power and there's a lot of privilege and there's a lot of capacity in wellness, and there's space for all of us. So how can we mobilize the space to make more room and make these practices that are necessary for everybody more accessible to everybody?
And so if the idea in the wellness space broadly is that it's very me-centered, that feels right to me, that there's a privilege that goes with that, right? Then how challenging is it, or what are some of the big, I'll stop starting it. What is the sort of some of the biggest challenges you're up against around coming from a more community-centered approach, which is typically how communities of color and marginalized communities in general start with our work?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I think it's one, like calling out what's inherently toxic about wellness, right? Because like this perception that like these practices and focusing on yourself can heal the planet is just not true. If that was true, considering that America is such a big consumer base of wellness, then America would be healed. And look at where we are right now. Look at where we are today. We're like, the hottest new wellness trend is learning how to wash our damn hands. Like, we are not in a space where the wellness industry is actually equating health and well-being for everybody. So that's the biggest thing, is like really just trying to redefine people's perspectives, but then also using, this is what I do as a fundraiser, is like looking at like, what do you think your strengths are? And you're applying this in the industry to yourself. Do you realize you have so much strength to change the system? You know, white women in wellness tend to be like very politically active. And so shifting their perspectives on that can change the industry, right? It can change politics. And then also by making people realize that there's more space for everybody, it just welcomes in the practices that are inherently part of communities of color in particular. And so I think that's important, is because we need to make space for what heals us. Right? And we need that to be seen and heard and celebrated and funded in a way that it's not right now.
Sorry, I muted myself. A huge part of your work, you're operating on so many different planes, is as a fundraiser. And you're talking to a group of fundraising women. You know, we are professionals. We do this all day long. And so what are some of the challenges, and also what are some of the opportunities that you have seen as you go out to find funding partners, as you go out to talk to individual donors, et cetera? What's out there in the world right now around fundraising for wellness? Because it would not have occurred to me, to be honest, that there was a whole world that I could actually go raise money for work that wasn't like neatly in the box of K-12 education, or neatly in the box of right to play, or neatly in the, so what are you experiencing out there?
Yeah. So on one hand, it depends on who you're fundraising from. For more institutionalized funders, I think the health and wellness industry is newer, especially in the education space. Trying to get people to spend money on yoga is not necessarily the priority for a lot of foundations. However, what we're seeing is that some of these wellness practices are very accessible. They're cost effective. You don't need to have a certain body type to do it, and you don't have to be at a certain learning ability to do it. So in the relationship with schools and other marginalized communities, it can actually be really powerful. And then on like some of the, venture funding side of it, there's so so many people that want to get into the wellness space, particularly in new and emerging wellness trends. New and emerging wellness trends are really focusing on people that have been left out of the conversation. So meditation apps for people of color, or yoga studios that are made for people that aren't able-bodied. Like, those are spaces that are so powerful and necessary and needed, but also really great funding opportunities for the right investors. I think, like in any space, there's always like, how do you show up as a person of color? But I also think that there's a lot of room for growth and a lot of room for learning. And as we see what's happening socially right now with the pandemic, I think we're going to see more alignment with institutionalized health practices and the wellness community, and offering more alternative ways for people to keep themselves well.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Well, I want to make sure that folks on the line, do y'all have any questions for Nicole before we center ourselves and move into a different space? Do you have any comments you want to make? We have an expert here. We never get access to, I think that for all the conferences I've gone to, maybe never is too dramatic. I'm a Gemini, I'm prone to the dramatic, Nicole, okay? We rarely get access to being able to have an expert in something that is so critical to our well-being and our development and just our overall survival at the ready. So we're just excited to have you. So Erin asks, can you talk more about the ventures and individuals you're looking to support through your fund?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so RV is an early stage investment. We're looking for for-profit companies that are creating wellness practices designed for underestimated communities. We've done a few of these like grants, like unrestricted funding grants. One was to somebody that created a meditation app for people of color. Another was to a yoga studio in Atlanta that centers the Black and Brown experience and focuses on training more Black and Brown people to become instructors. Another one is a yoga teacher training that works on Native American reservations and helps to create like culturally responsive wellness practices on site led by the leaders in those communities. So those are the kinds of things. We were making more investments, but we recently switched to creating a relief fund that is focused on keeping marginalized businesses that are in the wellness industry afloat during COVID-19. So if you do have a business and you need some help, we are here to support. So it's reclamationventures.co, and I'm sure you'll send all that information
Yes,
out.
I will. Absolutely. Look, I got another comment. Aaron says there aren't enough emojis for what you're talking about right now. And then how can we support these companies?
Oh, you're amazing. So one thing we need right now is for people to sign in solidarity of supporting marginalized business owners in wellness, which is super important. We're doing a lot of work in educating people around equity and wellness as we try to save people that are most vulnerable. So I could send a place that you can sign our solidarity pact. I just need your name. The more names, the merrier, because it
Absolutely.
really
You just text me and we'll send me all information, and we'll put everything in the group. We'll put it on our IG, which is small but mighty and growing every day. We are, the work we're doing, even just to mobilize ourselves and say, we actually need a community to make sure that we can be well.
Yeah.
Because the work we're doing is tough work.
Yep.
So it's taking some time, but it is starting to get some sea legs. So, just to watch you do this and to do it so well is amazing.
Well, I'm
Wonderful.
grateful for this community.
Absolutely. And we're here for you as well, because raising money is no joke. It's a whole last night we had happy hour, and the conversations we were having just about like how we show up in the world and our ability to be able to excel as professionals. We started talking about Coke versus Pepsi, and then we us, we got to jump to the focus, get to the meat of the situation. So you are welcome anytime. Okay, so I'm looking to see, are there any other questions? I don't see any more questions in the Zoom chat. I'm sure folks are going to have questions when they watch it later. This 6:00 time. Some folks are still cooking dinner for kids. Some folks are still on West Coast time, etc. So I will pop those into you if there's some specific questions that I can. I'll make sure I add you to that. Let me look into the Facebook group. Tiffany, I didn't see any other questions in the group yet, but we'll keep a watch on them if they are. Okay, so I'm going to put myself on mute. And then I actually have not gone through a guided practice before. in this way. So this is a treat. So I am here to I'm just gonna zip my mouth, put on mute.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah, so we'll just take a couple of minutes to ground ourselves. If this is your first time, welcome. Know that at any part of the experience, if it's not feeling like right for you, step out, go get some food, like do whatever you need to do, okay? Everything I offer is just an offer, and it's yours to take and practice at will. It'll be about 5 minutes. We're just gonna sit and go through a guided mindfulness practice. So first things first, find a comfortable seated position wherever you are. You could be on a couch or a chair or the floor. If you prefer to stand, maybe like lean back against the wall. Let whatever is connected to your body support your weight. So allow your legs to relax, your thighs, your hips to settle. If it feels right for you, you can close your eyes or lower your gaze. And first, notice the sounds in the room around you, maybe labeling them as they go by. Could be traffic or people, your dog, the AC. Just notice them and let them pass. And now see if you can draw your attention to your breath. Notice how it travels in and out of your body without judgment, without fixing. Notice if it goes in through the mouth or the nose, and where it goes out. Get friendly with it. And you may notice as you pay attention to your breath, you can breathe in a bit more deeply, drawing in through the nose, letting out through the mouth. Let's try that again. Breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. On your next breath in, see if you can grow your head to the top of the sky. On your breath out, see if you can gently release, settling more of your weight. Breathe in again, draw deep. And then release. With every breath in, see if you can grow taller. Every breath out, settle more deeply into the ground. Inhale, grow. Exhale, go. You can use those two little words to guide yourself. Inhale, grow. Exhale, go. And whatever comes to your mind, allow it to pass with every exhale. You can always visit thoughts later. But your breath is here and now. Inhale, grow. Exhale, go. Inhale, grow. Exhale, go. You could stay here as long as you'd like. And when you're feeling like you're ready to transition out, tune back into the sounds in the room around you. Name what you hear. And then when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes or refocus your gaze and return back to the room. Thank you guys so much.
That was wonderful. That was wonderful. Yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you, Nicole, so much.
You're so welcome.
That was
Thank
so
you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for just spending just a little bit of time with us today. And I am sure I will find ways to say, Nicole, help. Okay. So where can folks find you? I know I talk about your IG coffee in the morning because I love it.
Yeah. So I'm Nicole A. Cardoza on IG. That's really the platform I use these days. I'm not too active on Facebook, but I post a bunch of resources there. I have 8 a.m. coffee chats every morning on Instagram Live if you just want to come with some cool people and chat. I interview interesting, inspiring, kick-ass entrepreneurs every morning. So come hang out. And NicoleACardoza.com is my website, and you can find more information about all of the ventures that I have there too.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for just giving us that practice. It was interesting. I zoned out and then in and then out and then in. And so I was like, ooh, I have some work to do. But that breathing definitely helped. And it helped me check in too with myself and how my breathing's going right now with the COVID. So I appreciate that. Thank you, my friend, so much. You know, Tiffany just dropped your website in the chat. We're going to drop it on Facebook as well. I'm sure we see a bunch of us following you. I already do on and I thank you, my friend, so much for joining us tonight and kicking us off and getting us in the right frame of mind. I know folks were standing in their kitchen just taking a deep breath and just kind of getting ready for this. And so appreciate you. All right, y'all. We are at 6:30. Our next session is actually at 7. So you can just put your phone down or your laptop down and come back at 7. You can log off, and then I'll remind y'all again at 7. I'm going to end the live stream on Facebook right now, and then we'll pick back up at 7 o'clock. Thank you, my friends, so much. I appreciate you, and we'll talk real soon.
All right. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.